I would love to get how you guys feel about this. I brought it up in the opening monologue, but I'm old enough to remember the jokes about Ronald Reagan, even in his final term. And a lot of those jokes stem from him being not cognitively there, a doddering idiot who was reading the cue cards. And maybe Reagan is a little better than Biden at reading the cue cards because that's what he's done his whole life. And they could kind of point him in the right direction and he would just do the thing. He makes one of the biggest blunders, I would say, in the history of these debates as we know it, against, I believe it was Walter Mondale, where he admits to the Iran Contra scandal, um, and then still wins by a landslide. Why is it that we view Reagan through this lens of a certain kind of cunning when we really know it was more the people behind the scenes with him pulling the strings? And we view Biden as the person that has no one behind the scenes pulling the strings. Because it seems to me that the Democratic Party feels that we can put a cold body up there and beat this guy because no one really cares to the point that people think they care. What say y'all?
I don't think that's true. I think that there's actually a very keen awareness that there's a constellation of people behind them, and depending on who you read, they emphasize the family, especially Jill and Hunter, right? And for the Biden family and the various hangers-on, right? The Their gravy train, their whole economic um, livelihood rests on Joe Biden's career. If he becomes just another ex-president and maybe dies right away, the instant he's out of office, then they have to start looking for real jobs. And Hunter may have to start getting ready to serve some real time. Um, so there's those, but there's also when it comes to foreign policy, there's Anthony Blinken. There's all kinds of figures. Not Kamala Harris; she's been successfully sidelined. But yeah, there's a combination of ex-Obama people. There's a lot, and they're the ones who have been steering him, right, telling him where the podium was, preventing the worst moments from coming out, and the possibility that he wouldn't be able to manage, given his evident cognitive decline, without having a elaborate, um, a varied, numerous, and motivated team, concealing that from the public, running interference, and doing the managing of governance for him, if not making decisions for him. And I think that one reason why he's treated differently than Reagan is that at the end of Reagan's first term, it really did kind of feel like morning in America.
Mhm.
You didn't have the same polarization, the same level of American on American hostility, right? The level of conflict in the United States right now between uh, different political factions, different social groups, it's not something that I can recall at any point in my lifetime. You'd probably have to go back to the 60s to find that level. And, that is another era known for political violence, and where assassination uh, became one method of dealing with political rivals, or
I mean,
expressing political grievances.
this is also the same year that saw, I think it was late last year, someone self-emulated themselves, and then we had it again this year. So, this is 60s level, I guess we're getting to. I mean, Pascal, what say you?
I think that one of the things that distinguished Ronald Reagan was that Reagan was able to marshal in an agenda that transformed the whole governance landscape of the country to the reactionary right
Mhm.
within his first term. So he came in looking like a winner after 4 years. Biden never had that kind of wind at his back. He was never able to look like a winner. He always looked like he was a kind of doddering kind of just like, sleepy old man. I remember watching in the 2020 election,
Yeah.
just from the beginning. I remember having a conversation with Glenn Ford, and he was like, yo, this guy doesn't look all here at all.
Remember he did that speech in front of the black people, like, black guys is almost as good as white guys.
Yeah.
They're almost there.
Black kids are almost as good as white kids.
Yeah. So Tucson, what say you about all this? I know you were watching all the Trump news as the sirens were passing by. People were dancing in the streets. Whatever goes on in New York by your house, someone popped open a fire hydrant. Between all that New York going on, what were you gathering?
Well, much like you, I was sort of out of the loop with the news, but I was still on Facebook and I started to see memes. Somebody had gotten a tattoo of Trump putting his fist in the air with the Secret Service around him. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started to learn about the assassination.
And that's when I learned what a stalker was.
Yeah, it was kind of insane for somebody to already get a tattoo of that.
Someone's got a tattoo of Hawk Tua. So,
oh gosh,
yeah, that's the world we live in.
I also saw. Oh, sorry. Real quick,
please go ahead.
I also saw another meme of 5 celebrities that died that week. So there's a big picture of Shannon Doherty and another picture of Russell Simmons. Not Russell Simmons.
Russell Simmons. You were damn, son. Damn.
I wish.
Take that, Russ. You know
Richard
all about
Simmons.
Yeah.
Dr. Ruth, and then they showed the assassin, the attempted assassin, a picture of him. What is it? Does anyone know the assassin's name?
I forget. Thomas Carson something.
I think at Crooks.
Who?
Someone in the chat knows.
Who killed Robert Kennedy?
Sirhan.
There you go. That was quick.
Well, it's just one name. Thomas Matthew name. Crooks.
Yeah, who killed Lincoln?
John Wilkes Booth.
There you go. See how quick it is?
Pascal was there.
Pascal was there.
What was it like when Lincoln got shot, Pascal?
Pascal was an usher at
the theater.
I mean, everything was going great until this Southern gentleman is like, "Could you please hold my coat, sir?"
I find that interesting that no one knows the killer's name. I know a lot of people like that statement that says this is kayfabe on steroids. Of course, we really think someone really took a swipe at Donald Trump. It's just, for me, it's the way all of this is being portrayed. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I could go on any news channel after it happened. I saw my son on Saturday, and that wasn't the first thing out of his mom's mouth, but that was like kind of a table conversation as we sat down for dinner. Even my 5-year-old was like, "Somebody shot Trump." Like it's
who was that?
Phoenix. Yeah. Yeah.
Phoenix was that plugged in?
Phoenix is plugged in, man. Well, who's his dad? You're gonna ask yourself that question. That's the bigger question.
But I think that the part of it has to do with the fact that we've had politics reduced to spectacle for so long.
Yes.
That even when things are serious, even when we should be transcending that, it's still the default that people, the default frame that people take to this. And the last few elections, and this is Chris Cutrone's take. You've got takes on the left along these lines that really it doesn't matter, what's so bad about Trump. After all, look at Gaza, look at Joe Biden's record on a plethora of issues. The
Was
Ukraine
Trump
war
supposed to be better on Gaza than Joe Biden?
Well, no, the idea is that
Chris Cutrone?
The idea is that they're equally terrible, right?
Okay,
similarly, you go back to Ralph Nader in the 2000 election, and he's like, Boer Gush, more like Gush Boer, right? And But the reality is that things have gotten incrementally worse. We're like the apocryphal boiling frog, that we just adjust our expectations even when we might be we've already passed a number of very serious thresholds, and we might be at the edge of well, what Pascal was saying about Reagan is that when Reagan came in, he ushered in a really generational regime change inside the United States. The way that the government operated, the orientation of political programs, the whole direction of policy went from a New Deal consensus, which wrapped up even Republican presidents like Nixon and Eisenhower, to a new normal that constrained even Democratic presidents like Obama and Clinton. And at the forefront of that, which should be unsettling for everybody, was the Heritage Foundation. Mm-hmm. They were the ones who offered Reagan, they were part of the coalition that offered Reagan his blueprint on how to transform institutionally the structure of government, to enable neoliberalism and avoid the type of foot dragging and institutional obstacles that had bedeviled Carter, and that later would limit Obama when he tried to develop new diplomatic policies towards Iran and Cuba. He famously complained about the blob, the foreign policy deep state that prevented him from getting anything done. And similarly, checkmated Donald Trump's first term. Now, Project 2025, the parts of it that describe, their policy wish list, a lot of it is things that we've seen wouldn't be that out of place in a Mitt Romney platform. The scary parts are the detailed and very concrete understanding of the workings of the Washington bureaucracy, the executive branch, the legislative branch, going very deep into all federal agencies, including things like the Federal Electoral, the FEC, the Justice Department, with a detailed description about how they can prevent Trump from enacting his policies, how to gut them, who to replace, how to reorient these institutions, and as well as lists hundreds of candidates for staffing those roles. And they very frequently cite the first term of Ronald Reagan as their example about how to do this correctly, and as a touch point in terms of what achieving their ambitions could bring about. And also, they specifically quote, personnel is policy. You need to get rid of the careerists. You need to get rid of the people who sabotaged you initially. You can do that by reclassifying jobs, by using different disciplinary measures within the existing civil service, and also by introducing new legislation that they've already drafted. And here are the people that you bring in. Safe pairs of hands, people committed to our cause. And it's not just limited to Beltway insiders either. You yourselves, if you would like to be considered as conservative political appointees for Donald Trump, go to their website. They're taking names. They want a long bench. They want a completely new slate of personnel, new cadres, because they understand that the incumbents cannot be trusted, and they want individuals who aren't going to be careerists and bureaucrats and doing this for economic reasons, but they want ideologically loyal cadres. And once they're there, they'll be there for 20 years. It's a generational thing. And especially with a vice president like J.D. Vance, you have not only Trump as the revolutionary figure, but also a successor, handpicked, young, appropriate, capable, to consolidate that transition, and not for a single term either, but potentially, you're looking at
Is-
12 years on the ticket.
Is Jake